Skyrim has a lot of spells. In fact, by the time you're late in the game, most mage characters will be throwing artillery at their enemies. Well, we all know how this usually goes on my channel. That just sounds too easy. Can you beat Skyrim with only novice spells? On legendary difficulty. Yeah, legendary difficulty. This is going to be interesting. To start this run, I make my character a high elf because they start with the highest amount of magicka out of all the races. Novice spells don't do much damage, so it's imperative that I can at least cast them for a long time. I name him Mr. Spark, I'm not too sure why, narrowly dodge getting a haircut and sprint my way into the keep. I went with Ralof, which was probably a bad idea as you guys will see in a second, because we're up against Imperials who just so happen to have officers with heavy armor. So this is where I decided to try and get a little creative and use the Fury spell. This is a novice spell that high elves start with, and it basically just gets people pissed off enough to hit anything in their sight. I tried to use this to my advantage, but it didn't really work. I ended up just relying on Ralof to do most of the work while I just skulked around trying to do as much damage as possible. Here in the keep is a little cage with mage's gear in it, which would be pretty important to help this run. These puppies increase my magic regeneration and my magicka pool respectively. They help, not a great deal, but they help. My main problem is that I don't have any defense, and on legendary difficulty you can die in very few hits when you're as weak and feeble as myself. So, in short, I have to resort to running past enemies in the keep here because I get my ass handed to me multiple times. But hey, now I'm in the big wide world, so after snatching the mage stone, because duh, I decided to go into Embershard Mine, because of course I fucking did. Once again, I was shown the hard way that this run is going to suck. But hey, here I tried using Fury again, and this time to much more success. They actually were attacking each other, awesome. But I also had to sneak a lot so they didn't see me, and once one of them died, it was up to me to kill the remaining one, which usually got pretty tough. I died a couple more times, but eventually after basically causing a war in this final room, I got through it. But that wasn't the real struggle. The real hard part comes next. Bleak Falls Barrow. The bandits themselves were hard, but when I got to the Draugr, I mean just look at how much damage I do. This was the start of my realization that this run was going to take a while to beat. It was a slow crawl through the dungeon with quite a few learning experiences. Once I got to the big door, my game glitched. I'm not too sure why, but for some reason I couldn't activate any of the rings or even put the claw in the door. I tried for quite a while to get it to work, but I decided to use the TCL command and just clip through the door. I know, shocker, console commands, but it was to circumvent a glitch that stopped me from progressing, so I'm fine with it. The Draugr Overlord had way too much health, but luckily for me, Skyrim's AI allows me to just jump back and forth and he literally can't do anything to get me. It took a while, but I wasn't in too much danger thanks to the power of stairs. So I give the faulty claw back to Lucan and he pays me handsomely for it. Now it's time to head to Whiterun, and on the way there I was actually able to help defeat the giant. I didn't really do too much damage to it because, you know, it's legendary difficulty, but Ayla was pleased enough with me. So I go to Dragon's Reach and buy some more spells, most notably Raise Zombie. I think I used this all of 3 times in the run, but I wanted all the options I could get. I basically had every novice spell by the end of the game. I also want to take a second to focus on the elemental spells added by the Creation Club. I didn't realize they had a novice version of them that's like a better firebolt. I'm just adding this here so you guys don't yell at me in the comments because trust me, I was pissed off when I realized way too late in the run. But hey, now it's time for the first dragon. Well, that just went perfectly. Now would you look at that, I'm Dragonborn. Now I'm going to quickly go over my rules for shouts. Because they technically don't count as spells, you would be correct in saying that I shouldn't use them at all. However, I think it's fair to count some shouts as novice shouts. So I'm only going to allow myself to use shouts that I need to learn to progress the main quest. So by the end, I'll only be allowed to use Unrelenting Force, Whirlwind Sprint, Clear Skies, Fire Breath, and Dragon Rend. I don't want to hear complaining. Anyway, now it's time to go see the Greybeards. However, I first take a little detour to Winterhold to try and gain access to the college. Well, it's just my luck that every goddamn spell you need to cast to get in there are apprentice spells. So great, no college for now. I even tried using the good old plate trick to get through, but this gate must have been made of some strong stuff. I just gave up after a little while. After fast traveling to Helgen, I start traveling to Ivarstead, but I want to take a second to appreciate how good this game looks. I mean, I modded the shit out of it, but I made it look lovely. Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to make a video about my mod list for these runs. So I get to Ivarstead, talk to Keemstar, and start going up the mountain. For some reason, I killed both of the pilgrims that were up here. Well, tried to at least. The second one fucking whooped me a couple times, but after a while of just walking, fighting off wolves, and expertly dodging the gaze of your mother-in-law, I made it to High Hrothgar. Also, I picked up Faendal as a follower a little while back. I was originally going to do this without followers, but then I realized that I wanted to finish this video within 6 months. Trust me, he didn't help that much. So after shouting at the Greybeards for a little bit, they sent me to Ustengrav to retrieve their horn. Getting there was fine, but damn, the necromancer outside gave me a bit of trouble. Contrary to popular belief, having a flamethrower come out of your hand actually does fuck all damage, go figure. But apparently every other mage in the game just has better hands than me, because I basically turn to charcoal the moment I even see a spell come towards me. Luckily, Faendal was able to distract them so I could just barely take care of them. It was a close call, but I managed. Then I actually entered the dungeon. I don't think I need to say any more. Let me just show you. But oh, you thought that was bad? Well, I stole a bucket from the shopkeep in Winterhold, because of course I did. It must have been a family heirloom because she sent a group of hired thugs after me for it. Faendal was still in the dungeon taking care of all the Draugr I kindly left for him, so I was basically in a 1v3 against these guys with full iron and steel armor. This took me so long. I eventually settled on the strategy of using Fury to anger them so they could take care of each other, but that was still difficult because they have a lot of health, and every time I cast Fury on them, they focus on me for a few seconds, so I need to be quick on my feet and continually casting on them for a long time. After that complete and total clusterfuck, I need to go to Delphine and Riverwood. Oh wow, would you look at that? Dragon cultists! I swear, every single thing this game could throw at me, they did. Because I was in Riverwood, I was able to just let the townspeople deal with them for the most part, though I did save Alvor's ass. Now, finally, let's talk to Delphine. Okay, talking to her was more of a punishment than the past hour of bullshit I've had to go through, but either way, she gave me the horn, so that means I'm going straight back to High Hrothgar to unlock the full unrelenting force shout. I finally have a shout worth using, so I make sure to test it out on Faendal to make sure it's working properly. Can confirm, worked like a charm. Delphine doesn't believe that I'm Dragonborn, even though Faendal has about 73 broken bones to prove it, but we're on our way to Kynesgrove so I can give this dragon's soul the quick Gluck Gluck 3000. So, you know how most Skyrim challenge YouTubers, including myself, say that this dragon is easy because you can do a bunch of damage to it before it finishes reviving? Well, that is true, except when you do about as much damage as throwing wet tissue paper, and your body can take the same punishment as a fetus. The little grace period you get at the start doesn't count for much. So I basically just let Faendal and Delphine do all the damage while I hide behind rocks. Not my proudest moment, but it worked. Now it's time for the Thalmor Embassy. Going into this, I was actually hopeful, because I've heard many times from you guys in the comments that you can actually disguise yourself and go through unseen. I'm a high elf, and I remembered there being some Thalmor robes in the embassy that you can sneak to and get before being caught. So I thought, finally, I can actually do this whole disguise thing. Finally, I can see what else this quest has to offer. I was sorely disappointed. I snuck on, put on the robes, went to stroll through like I owned the shop, and they saw right through me. I tried this a couple times too, so I went to the wiki to try and figure out what was going on. It turns out that you need hooded Thalmor robes, and there's only normal robes here without the hood. Okay, Bethesda, thanks. So what was the point of putting the fucking robes there if we can't use them? So yeah, I died a lot. To be expected, really. I managed to run past most enemies, but in the final room, I was obviously going to have to deal with all the enemies I evaded. So, a lot of trial and error, but I eventually got them to kill each other with fury and dealt with the last one or two myself. This was stressful, man. I actually managed to save Malborn, but then the Frost Troll had to have the last laugh and killed the poor guy. I avenged him though, and before long, I was back at Delphine to give her a sit rep. Hunting for Esbern also wasn't too bad. Having a follower like Faendal was pretty useful in keeping their attention while I cast spells from the back, but I'm starting to quickly realize that Flames was definitely not designed for later portions in the game. You are meant to upgrade, but it's getting me by so far. Groups of enemies actually aren't too much of a problem because I can use Fury, but once there's only 1 or 2 left, I have to get creative to make sure I don't take any hits. Other mages are by far the worst enemy to deal with because they can cast wards that block my magic, and seeing as that's the only way that I can do damage to them, it gets super tedious. But either way, I sweet talk this old man into following me, and then once again we are sent to a new location, this time in order to figure out how the old Nords defeated Alduin. Skyhaven Temple, here we come. Now of course, getting there wasn't too bad, it's just one of the many parts in the main quest where you have to do boring shit to get to the good stuff. I just had to run past the enemies, play hopscotch with me if I was Prince, yeah, get it, symbol, do some casual self-harm, and that was about it. Honestly, the hardest part was just waiting around for Esbern to actually get to the point. So we figured out that the old Nords used a shout to defeat Alduin, so I gotta go to the Greybeards to see if they can point me in the right direction. They don't know the shout, so now I'm talking to P. Diddy to see if he knows. He doesn't either, so now I've gotta look for an Elder Scroll. But I'm going to put a pin in the main quest for now, because I'm realizing really quickly that my gear is not up to snuff right now. So I head back to the College of Winterhold, because if I can manage to beat this questline, I'll be set up with the Archmage's robes, some really useful enchanted jewelry, and the Dragon Priest mask Morokai. So let's see if I can do this. Okay, there's already a roadblock like I mentioned earlier. I need to use an apprentice spell to be let in. Now technically you can get in by shouting, but in my stupidity I've already been to Septimus without visiting the college first, so that removes that option for me. So I buckle and allow myself to cast Firebolt once to be let in. I didn't use it on an enemy and I could have gotten in there without using it if I just timed it better, so realistically I don't count this as failing the run, just me being stupid. Mirabelle takes me for a bit of a tour and before long I'm joining a lecture on wards. Luckily, the ward I need to cast is a novice level spell, so I get past that no problem and now I've got a ward I can use. It sucks, but at least I have it. I visit Enthir, who's basically known as the peddler in the college. He knows how to get things, and he just so happens to be selling some new mage gear that could help me out a ton. One small problem, I'm broke as fuck, so before I continue with the college quests, I head to Whiterun to sell everything I can and help out with some side quests to get some extra coin. I convince the bard to stop harassing Carlotta, go and fetch Amran's family sword from a cave full of bandits, and I go and clear 2 bandit camps searching for a mammoth tusk for Isolde. First I did try and actually kill a mammoth for it, but I realized real quick that I'm not quite ready for that yet. These guys at this small camp were actually surprisingly tough, and it wasn't until I had already died a bunch and eventually cleared it that I realized there was literally a cart full of mammoth tusks right at the entrance. Why am I like this? On the bright side, it did get me some more coin and loot to sell, which is always nice. So after being the greatest Samaritan for these folks in Whiterun, I head back to the college and just managed to buy some apprentice robes of destruction, which gives me extra magic regeneration and makes my destruction spells cheaper to cast. Was it worth all that hassle? Probably not. Next, we have to go to Sarthal for a school excursion, but this isn't like any of the excursions I went on as a kid. I mean, usually we went to a lake to camp, or maybe to an aquarium if I was lucky. These guys are basically going to the French catacombs for free. I find some cool rings and an amulet which locks me in this room, then through the power of putting the amulet around my neck I can destroy these rocks and man, I don't really know what's going on. What I do know, however, is getting contacted via magic Skype call is not normal, so I better take what this guy says seriously. The Draugr in Sarthal were intense. It takes forever to just kill a restless Draugr, let alone the Draugr White that I came up against later on. That being said, I was able to Fusrodar this guy across into a little platform, and because the AI in this game doesn't know how to jump, he sort of just stood there waiting to die. I took him up on the offer. I was pretty scared about the boss at the end of the dungeon, but to be honest, he wasn't that hard. He had much less health than I thought he would, so luckily I was able to deal with him pretty quickly. This orb was pretty weird, so much so that Tolfdir got me to go and tell the Archmage about it. I've now got to go and find some books about it, but unfortunately the nearest library with the books I need is filled with necromancers and mages. Just kidding, this jackass stole them, so now I have to go and get them from this dungeon. And holy shit, this was by far one of the hardest dungeons in the whole run. The guys outside weren't too hard, like they literally died before I even realized they were there, but literally the first room inside the dungeon had me completely stuck for way too long. I tried everything, but eventually what I figured out was I could use fury on them to distract them with each other, run into the next room, let out the vampires who were held captive, watch an all-out war unfold, then just pick off the stragglers. It was a lot. The rest of the dungeon pretty much went the same way, barely struggling my way through, dying a lot, until I reached the final boss. This dungeon really started to make me lose motivation. Knowing that this was far from the hardest challenge I'll have to face in this run made me start to wonder if it was even possible. I still had Morokai, Ankano, the first fight with Alduin, and I could barely get through a dungeon with a few low-level mages. I needed some motivation, so I reached out to YouTube's wizardry specialist, the Stellar J, for some advice. What do I do, man? I mean, look at this fight I'm in right now, it's impossible.
Hi, that's me, the Stellar J. Look at my awesome bird PNG. Of course I can help. Using magic only in Skyrim is harder than breaking up with a mentally unstable, slightly chubby goth girl. Skyrim has an extremely varied magic system with lots of unique spells, but literally all the useful ones are only used to supplement other forms of combat. All the destruction spells are just like shooting ice, fire, or lightning in a straight line, and they barely do any damage. You're gonna have to lie, trick, cheat, and steal with this one, pal. Close wounds is gonna be extremely useful in healing up. Oh, you can only use novice spells? You're fucked! Let's see, I like your idea of sicking enemies on each other. What else? Pacify could be invaluable in this run. Is that a novice spell? The best magic is all about buffing yourself or enemies to do more damage, or to go invisible, or to seduce the Jarl of Whiterun. Wait, sorry, that's a mod I have installed. You're doing great, okay? Just keep pressing on. Subscribe to the Stellar J ASAP. Okay, thanks, bye!
Thanks, man. That helps. Go subscribe to him. So this boss was a pain in the ass. She has a flame Atronak, likes to teleport, and kills me in milliseconds. I tried drain health spells, shouts, flames, used oak flesh to increase my armor, wards, and I still died over and over and over again. I eventually beat her in a kind of cheesy way. Faendal had her backed into a corner and we both just beat on her until she died. Once again, not my proudest moment, but I was just happy to have killed her. So once I got back to the college, I gave the books that I recovered to Grognak the librarian. Then Ankano drags me up to the Archmage where a member from the Sigic Order wanted to talk to me. He basically just tells me in super vague terms that something bad is going to happen and I need to stop it. Thanks, man. That's what you said the first time you stopped time to talk to me. Really glad you made all this effort to come see me in person to say the same thing again. Anyway, now I've got to talk to the Augur of Dunlane, which sounds like a fancy title for a British person, but in reality it's just a glowing orb of light that talks. Apparently this guy used to be a real person that was so good at magic he became magic. Either way, he says I need the Staff of Magnus to match with the Eye of Magnus that we just have chilling in the college at the moment. But fuck that, because we've got a dragon on our hands. Even on legendary difficulty though, an entire college filled with powerful mages, not me included, can deal with it pretty quickly. So now I've got to go to a dwarven ruin. Yay! This ruin sucked. Every single enemy encounter was a fight for survival with multiple deaths. I was literally like Doctor Strange, going through thousands of universes until I found the one I survived in, and do those exact actions in order for me to survive. There was a lot of jumping, dodging, casting, shouting, anything that would allow me to just get a little further. So I finally get through it, do this stupid Dwemer puzzle, and all of this was just to find out the location of the staff. For fuck's sake. But hold up a second, there's drama. Ankano, the snobby bastard, has blocked himself in with the Eye of Magnus. We try to get him, but then he pulls a kamikaze and knocks us all out. Then, in a slightly goofy twist, the Archmage was blown straight out the door and into the campus, dying on impact. How in the goddamn did this happen? Now there's also magic anomalies attacking Winterhold, so me and the merry gang go down to sort it out. I say that like it was simple. It was not. I died a lot and once again had to really try and think outside the box to kill these guys. But once they were finally dealt with, I need to go to Labyrinthian to get the Staff of Magnus and deal with this Thalmor bitch once and for all. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This dungeon nearly broke me. The easiest part of this dungeon was the frost trolls outside. That's how bad this was. Draugr, Ghost Draugr, spirits, skeletons, a fucking bone dragon, and not to mention a wisp mother were all after me. I would show you a montage of me dying, but it would literally take up the rest of the video. And all of that leads to a final boss at the end of the dungeon, Morokai. He's a dragon priest who wields the Staff of Magnus, which drains your magicka reserves until they're empty, and then it drains your health. If you're understanding what I'm saying, that means that if he hits me, I literally can't defend myself because all I can use is spells. Faendal tries, but I mean, come on now. So you guys are going to hate me for this, but I turned the difficulty down to Adept to be able to beat him. I just don't think it's possible with only Novice spells, not to mention that Mordecai heals himself and stops you from attacking. I hate it, but it was really the only option I could see. But guys, I have some sad news. In all of the chaos, Faendal fell in battle. Him and I went through a lot together, and much like Savos Aran's friends here, he will stay in Labyrinthian forever. This made me feel a little better about turning down the difficulty. I was at a disadvantage and wanted revenge. Once I killed Mordecai, I took the staff and his mask and left. One of Ancano's friends came to stop me, and after a while of trying to kill him, I realized I could just leave and he didn't follow me, so that's nice. But now that I'm back, it's time for the final showdown with Ancano. He kills me in one hit. Genuinely, there is no way to kill him with my current gear on Legendary difficulty. He heals himself, has way too much health, and I need to be close to him to do damage with my spells. And he one-shots me. So once again, I need to turn the difficulty down. But I shit you not, the game glitched and put me down to Novice. I tried turning it up, but it just wouldn't. It would go straight back down. So in my pissed off state with literally no other option, I just had to kill Ancano on Novice. I really didn't like this. But it means that finally the College of Winterhold questline is done, and before long, I'm given the Archmage's robes. So now, finally, back to the main quest, and don't worry, I figured out how to get the difficulty back up to Legendary. I need to get an Elder Scroll, but I'm sick to death of Dwarven Ruins by this point, so I just went to the exit of the ruin and used the good old wooden plate method to clip my way through. I'm the Archmage now, so I chalk this up to my stunning magical ability. I spam some buttons, get the scroll, and now it's time for the first fight with Alduin. I realized during my first battle that I still don't have a follower, so I just kind of ran off the mountain to go and collect Lydia as my next meat shield. The fight was pretty bad. Eventually I just hid behind a rock and used Dragon Rend on both Alduin and Paarthurnax so they would just constantly attack each other until he was defeated. It took a while, but it worked. But now it's time for everyone's favourite part, the Peace Council. But first I talked to Farengar and looked for some spells. See that Elemental Flare spell right there? It was pretty cheap, so I bought it just to see if it was Novice or not. It was. This entire fucking time, I could have been using a spell that does 3 times the damage and explodes on impact. I am pissed off at myself for not realizing this, so I let it all out on Lydia. Sorry. On the way to tell Tullius about the Peace Council, there was a shit ton of Solitude guards just pouring out of Castle Dower. It was insane, so of course I quick saved and anyway, I'll skip past the whole Peace Council thing. Time to trap a dragon, baby. This guard goes flying, poor dude. Hit Odoving with Dragon Rend and trap him, the usual. Next thing you know, I'm flying to Skardofen. When I say that I had a confidence boost from this new spell, it would be an understatement. I'm genuinely so mad at myself for not getting it at the start of the run. But oh well. What's done is done, and I'm honestly surprised that I got as far as I did with only flames and choking grasp. Skardofen wasn't too bad to be honest, but once again the sealed door was glitched just like in Bleak Falls. Same solution as last time, I just used console commands to clip through it because otherwise I would just be stuck staring at a wall for the rest of the run. I get outside, try to put up a fight and then realize that's a bad idea, then ran straight into the portal. Soon actually put up quite a fight. He took a lot more to pacify than I would have expected. And then the next thing you know, we're saving the world. We all know I'm going to beat Alduin, but I guess it's not really a can you beat Skyrim video unless I finish the main quest. But either way, I am glad to be done with this run. I suppose that does answer the question. You can in fact beat Skyrim with only Novice spells. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry this video took so long to come out. It took a long time to record the run itself, and this script is about 9 pages long now. If you guys like this video, make sure to let me know in the comments and subscribe so you can see more. Huge thank you to all of my members for supporting the channel, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.